Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, depending on where and when you're watching this show from. Welcome to African Corner. We are live. I'm Washira reporting from Nairobi, Kenya. And this is the day that we have been planning for. We promised you guys last week that we are going to do a recap of mental health in Africa, and here it is. Ali, how are you today? How is South Africa?
Good evening, good afternoon, good day, Sani Bonane, Dumela, Abshini, Ronalakai. Thank you so much, my brother. I'm doing great this side. My name is Ali. I'm joining from South Africa, the mountains of Limpopo, Wachiri, Peter, Karuku. What's up?
What's up? Earlier, just remember the other day we were telling people that we have to do a recap, and actually we told them that it's actually a three-part series of this discussion that we'll be having surrounding mental health in Africa, and we'll be taking them slowly and slowly. However, early today in Kenya, we are not seeing any. It's a slow day, if we can put it as that, as such. There is nothing much going on. We're just seeing the normal. People going there about a business, and we're expecting. Remember the two counties that I told you, Kakamega and Mombasa counties, they are going to the ballot this coming week. So we want to see how that is going to go about. But really, in terms of what is happening in Kenya, there is nothing as much. I think what is happening right now is African Corner, and we should be
Yes.
keeping on. we should be focusing on that. So Ali, before I forget, we also want to thank everybody who has taken their time to watch this video right now. We want to thank everybody who has taken their time to subscribe and share, and also send in their comments. We really appreciate them. And we're also telling them they can be sharing the link so that their friends can also be part and parcel of this today's episode. So today I can see we have two wonderful guests here. We have two gentlemen, and I don't want to do the injustice of introducing them. So I'll start from Karugu, who will introduce himself and tell us what he does, who he is, and anything that he might want to share with the African Corner audience. Karugu, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, first, for organizing this. You see, many people have ideas, but very few people execute the ideas that come to them. Because you see, we do not own ideas. Ideas come to us, and our role as human beings is to evaluate them, but most importantly, execute them. So you two here have the power to execute ideas that come to you. And that is very commendable, because today we live in a society where people do not come up with good ideas, or good ideas do not come to them, and even when they do, they are too afraid to execute them. So I commend that part in you, for having the courage to execute this beautiful idea of the African Corner. You see, okay, I can talk about, I'll talk about that later. Let me just introduce myself. Sometimes I get lost in the idea of uniting Africans, and I believe this is a good start. So I am Karuku Chugo. I am a psychology student at Kenyatta University. But psychology is a Western name for a traditional healer. So really, I am a healer in calling, and I come from a history of medicine men, both from my mother's side and my father's side. My great grandfather on my mother's side was a medicine man, and my great grandfather on my father's side was a medicine man as well. And here I am their dream. And much as they did not maybe conceptualize this, I'm sure they are happy wherever they are to hear me talk today, talk about healing in the modern day society, and talking about healing in the ways that they left us, that we have forgotten, but also incorporating that indigenous healing with what I have learned in my 4 years of study. So I am many things, but at the end of the day, I am just but a wounded healer who is trying to heal himself, but also heal those around him. And it is a pleasure to have this platform.
I think that is among the most wonderful introductions you have ever had in African Corner. Karuk, that was wonderful. I really commend that.
Thank
Peter,
you.
the bar has been set high. I don't know how you're going to get to that. So, Peter, maybe you can introduce yourself. We were with you here last week, but just for the sake of our new audience and the people who are also viewing us right now, maybe you can also introduce yourself again. Peter? I don't know if Peter can hear me. I think maybe the sound
Yeah.
has some technical issues on that side. However, as he's also fixing that or looking on that, I can just tell our people the merchandise is still out. Like today, you're seeing I'm wearing a Washira Speaks t-shirt. They are out. I also want to give a special shout out to one of my friends called Collins Miner. He bought a t-shirt and he
How much is
also
a t-shirt?
he bought a t-shirt and he's also sponsoring this episode. So I really want to give that a special shout out. So Peter, can you hear me?
Yeah,
I don't know what is up.
I think Peter might be having some technical issues. Let's keep rolling. Let's keep rolling with Karugu.
Karugu, on to our first question. You know, as Peter is looking at what is happening on his side, we wanted to talk about, or our intention today is to talk about the mental health in Africa, and we want to go back. You know, we want to look at in the historical perspective. So, what is the traditional African way of perceiving illnesses? For example, in your own community, how have you seen them perceiving and looking at the issues of mental illnesses?
I have to say my understanding of my own culture's ways of dealing with mental health has been shaped by how I have studied different cultures from the world and come to an in-depth understanding of how I am a Kikuyu in Kenya and come to a proper understanding of what and how our culture dealt with illness. So I was reading, if you go to Wikipedia and do a quick search, you'll find the Agikoyo tribe. And of the many things you'll find there about the Agikoyo tribe are 16 philosophies that they used to understand health and sickness. And the Kikuyu had a very profound way of understanding health and illness, and it is very akin to what the Indians in Asia used to understand health and sickness. You see, in India they greet each other namaste. Namaste simply means the divine in me honors the divine in you. And when you come to the Kikuyu, and Washira here can tell you early, we greet each other in a Kikuyu greeting that says Niorairie Mwaki, which simply means, is your fire still alive? And people think it is a physical fire, but when Kikuyus greet each other that way, it is the fire that is within them that they are asking each other, is that fire still alive? You know? And the Kikuyus believed very strongly that every being alive has a vital force within them, and that is the fire they used to ask each other, hey, is the fire still alive? And the mistake, and this is why Kikuyus are having a lot of issues in today's society, and it is because the fire in them has died. They have no idea how to lit it further. They have no idea where sources of fire come from, and they have lost themselves. And when you look at the Native Americans, for example, the white man went to Northern America. He uprooted the Native Indigenous American from his roots. And right now, if you go to America, the Native Americans are the biggest demographic that engage in alcoholism, 5 times more than the typical population. And that is what happens when you uproot a people from its roots. You see, Marcus Garvey famously said, and Washira recently sent me a picture saying this, that a people without knowledge of their history are like a tree without roots. And many Kikuyus and many Africans in general are suffering because they've been uprooted from their roots. People have no respect for their ancestors, for their grandparents or their parents. And worse, they have no respect for themselves. People are embarrassed about their great history and ancestry and origins. And they think they're just embarrassed about that. They have no idea that they're embarrassed about themselves and therefore their future. So if there's anything I can say about mental health from the Kikuyu's perspective, is that first, we had the issues that we dealt with. Stress and depression and madness did not come with a white man. But our understanding of stress, depression, and madness was different from what the white man has showed us today. For example, when people had, say something like madness, we have sayings in Kikuyu that say, that simply translates to he's mad like somebody whose health is coming out of. And
Mhm.
nowadays, Western psychology tells us to diagnose quote unquote madness as schizophrenia. And that is absolute madness. In our culture, those people with quote unquote schizophrenia used to be the medicine men of our times. Because who is
Mhm.
a person with schizophrenia but a person who can see into the future, who can hear voices and hear other people tell him things? But you see, the
Mhm.
Western psychology does not accommodate for people hearing things from outside sources like your ancestors. And so they
Mhm.
diagnose that as madness. And therefore, we've lost many medicine men in the mental hospitals of today. Because these are people who ancestors who have the power to hear voices from ancestors. But since we think that is madness, we medicate them and suppress their power to heal and to contact those that are beyond them. And I appreciate the South Africans. I know a South African psychologist called Anele Siswana. Anele Siswana is a medicine man and he's also a psychologist and a theologian. And that guy heals like nobody's business because he heals even with the power of those that came before him. So we had our own different understanding, and that is, for example, on the issue of madness. On stress and depression, we understood, and these issues were not as frequent as they are today because we understood the idea of responsibility so much. Our cultures are built on responsibility. You see, now we live in a generation that just speaks about rights. Oh, I
Mhm.
have a right to this. Oh, I have a right to that. Right. Nothing about responsibility. And that is where our sickness has begun.
Mhm.
So we had a lot of mental health because we understood what responsibility is. In
Mhm.
Kiswahili, we say mpanda farasi wawili hupasuka msamba. That translates to he who climbs two horses breaks his body. And we are
Mhm.
even told of the story of the hyena who broke his body because he was trying to follow two paths. The
Mhm.
two paths that we have been following since the white man came is a path of rights and responsibilities.
Yeah.
Both are important paths, but it is you to know that the path is the same, but some
Mhm.
routes require rights, others require responsibilities. So we
Mhm.
had few cases of depression and stress and suicide and all these other things because the path that we were following of responsibility was working for us. Thank you.
Mhm. Thank you, Karugo. That is just a wonderful explaining, explanation, if I can put it like that. You have really exhausted much that I wanted to say. Ali, I come from the same community as Karugo, so I cannot really add much from what he has said, rather than just saying, in especially from our community and looking at that also in the continental perspective, mental health issues was looked as an external attack. It was something that came from without, not from within. But with the new education and with the new knowledge that has been coming about, we have gotten to know that mental health most of the time comes from within. And that's why, Ali, I want to ask also to pose the same question to you, straight from the mountains of Limpopo, speaking on behalf of the Sepedi people. How do you people view mental illness right now? And also, how are your ancestors viewing mental illnesses back then?
The little information that I have from my side,
Mhm.
especially coming from the small Bedi village where I'm coming from, mental
Mhm.
health it's been perceived in different ways.
Mhm.
Have been perceived in different ways. We have some other people who are having some psychological problems,
Mhm.
and we have some of those people who have mental issues. And
Mhm.
I can tell you that you find that some of them are just walking on the road, picking up
Mhm.
papers. Some of
Mhm.
them, you find that they're being closed indoors. Some of
Mhm.
them, their parents, they don't want people to be aware of such people. They just
Mhm.
close them inside the house. And you'll
Mhm.
be shocked. You'll be shocked when you visit them at night. That's when you'll be able to see that person, because that person is mentally disturbed. They don't want people to be aware that they're having such a child. We have a lot of children. It's happening, especially into the black communities where we are coming from. There are a lot of children who are having mental issues. They lock them indoors. There are those who are also crippled and having mental issues. They lock them indoors. They don't want people to see them because they feel that if they can expose these people or these children to us, we are going to perceive it in a wrong way, to say that these ones are not having mental issues. These ones are witchcraft. That's the problem that they're having this side. So mostly
Yeah.
they'll be thinking that people, they will start to be afraid of me. They will think that, hey, Ali's having a wish that side. So that's the thing. And we perceive it in different ways. And looking back there, I can tell you that when it comes to African people, especially where I'm coming from,
Yeah.
mental health has been perceived in a different way. It's becoming sort of a racist thing. Most of the people who, stress much about when it comes to mental health issues are other people of a different race. Could be the colors or other people. Only few black African brothers come from our side who take it into account. For now, if you can see somebody walking on the road, maybe
Mhm,
being mentally disturbed, they'll be like, no, that one
mhm,
once stole something somewhere, so somebody
mhm,
wished that person without even thinking
mhm,
that person is having mental issues. We see some
mhm,
of them who are being chained down. Let me tell you this very quickly.
mhm,
This side, we have sort of small centers where they are profits. They assist the
mhm,
people. If somebody's having some issues, they will take the person there to get assistance. When the person
mhm,
get there, they can see that this person is having mental issues. In order for them to get the professional assistance, they are going to
mhm,
buy chains to lock the
mhm.
person on
What?
the feet. Yeah, it's happening. They lock the person on the feet and also on the head. Then they'll be like, no, this one is having demons. What are having demons? Trying to
What?
assist the person. And if the person maybe leaves the chain and run, they'll be following and getting the. It's happening. So some will be saying, no, this one has been wished. And if this person can be taken care of, this
Uh-huh.
person will come back normal. The thing is
Yeah,
that their
yeah.
perception is very different.
That is a really sad story, and that is what one of the things that we really want to shed light on. Sometimes when you see people in that kind of a situation, please try and handle them differently. You really don't need to put chains on people. Long gone are the days of slavery where our forefathers were used to be chained and taken to various lands. And actually, Ali, have just reminded me. Remember when we were preparing for this episode, and I was telling you we should talk about mental health, and you remember telling me, in South Africa, because of it being the rainbow country, it is a bit difficult to have this discussion because I think many black people associate the problem to white people, and also I think the white people have not taken it as much as they would have taken it to solve this issue. However, I am seeing that Peter has come back, so I really want to give him this chance to introduce himself, so that we can continue with the discussion. Peter, can you hear me now? Peter? I can see he is nodding, so I'm not sure whether he can hear us. So I don't know what is happening. Peter?
Yes, I hear you.
Yeah.
Not clearly, but I hear you.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry I had to leave early before introducing myself. Yes, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you, Peter. Go through.
My name is Peter.
Mm-hmm.
I was in the show.
Peter, we can hear you. I think we've lost Peter. So I want to bring back Karugu once again. We were talking about the issue of mental, illnesses and how mental health has been perceived specifically from your own community. So basing on that history, because you have said there were some sort of perception, do you have any idea how they were mentally ill people were identified? And during those days and also this modern time, do you know how they used to identify that this person is mentally ill, or the way you have put it, maybe they thought this person has gone insane? How were they really identifying these people?
Okay, so the traditional African form of psychology was so advanced that even modern psychology is not about to reach it. Because in the traditional African society, in Nigeria, in South African, they call them sangomas. You have heard about sangomas, Ali? Yes, in Kikuyu we call them modomogo. You see, these people, they did not need any depression test or what test to tell you that you have a depression. They just needed you to maybe mention your name. And even the best of sangomas and healers and adoago, they just looked at you and knew all your history. In fact, you just needed to visit them with respect. And that is why we have a history of being told, get us a black chicken or a white chicken. People focus on the chicken. They don't understand that you're being told to get a rare thing for you to respect the healing that you're about to get. It is not about the healing. You see, the true healer does not charge because his ability to heal, he has been given for free, you know. So these people traditionally, you just needed to look at you and understand not only your past, but also your future. That is why Wachira, you know, Mogo Agefiro, he predicted eons of years ago that the white man would come because his form of psychology was so advanced that even modern psychology today needs something known as some funny tests that are very faulty to predict maybe your ability maybe to go out of prison and come back. And they fail. So they just used to look at you. Nowadays, we've lost those men and women because they are both men and women. And nowadays, people are thought to be cast. And it goes back to the point that Wachira said and the point that you, Ali, said about witchcraft. Wachira said mental health begins from within. And Ali said, talks about witchcraft. You see, witchcraft is all an art whereby you are sold fear. You're told, you think somebody has thrown you something, but all that has happened is that you've started believing you're a failure. Once you believe you're a failure, you have no idea how terrible a witch doctor you are. You can witch doctor yourself to hell.
Yeah.
But also, and this is what we have forgotten, Africans knew that we are our own best healers. And that is why, for example, Wachira, you know that when a Kikuyu boy and girl is born, there are 5 or 4 ululations. And one ululation is that of healing. Because Kikuyus very profoundly understood that we are our own best healers. But you see, healing is on a spectrum. If you know to become your own healer, you become your own witch doctor. And you are very good at both roles. So the true role of a healer back then was to remind a Kikuyu that you stop living this life of fear. Realize that you are a healer and unheal yourself from this witchcraft that you have sorcered yourself into.
You have actually reminded me of this famous phrase that people like saying that as a man thinketh, so is he. And from that point, I want to go directly to my next question before I bring you Ali. Allow me to ask Karugu. He has talked about the way they used to see these people, and they had these powers, and they had this. I don't know even how I can define them, because even defining them in the first place it'd be a little bit difficult defining them in this foreign language. However, Karugu, what were some of the traditional methods of treating these mental illnesses? Were there any traditional methods of treating, mental illnesses?
Yes. So, yeah, there are different methods of treating these mental illnesses. And I said earlier that the horse that the white man brought us was a horse of rights. And that is why women and men are all over the place, swimming like children, complaining about they have not been given a right to this and a right to that. And if you look at America, we can see where this fight for rights has gotten us. So we used to heal through this other horse of responsibility. And how did we do that? When you visited a healer, he looked into your life and saw ways in which you have failed in your responsibilities. For responsibilities like which ones? For example, you've not paid sheep to your mother, or wherever say you have married somebody and you've not paid the required amount of sheep. And he was not just able to look at your present responsibility. He even looked at the responsibilities that your great forefathers left. And that is why in Kikuyu, sometimes we have things like the Irewa Shosho, my grandmother's debt, and many other debts that our Kikuyu people have, because it was all the idea of responsibility. So they would look into your past and see, so your great-grandfather had not properly bought his wife. That was a failed responsibility. And because he can see the failures of responsibility in your past, then he would tell you to pay the debts that you owed them. These debts, we call them the debts of our ancestors. But what are they? But a reminder that we should respect the institutions of marriage and circumcision and all these other things that we had in our traditional African societies. So, Wachira, that was one way through which we found healing from our mental illnesses. We were reminded of the responsibilities where we failed in our own personal lives and in the personal lives of those who came before us. Because you seated here, wherever you are, you're not just on your own. You're a representation of all your forefathers and their mistakes and their successes. So if you
Yes.
are going to succeed because you are them, you have to pay their debts that they did not pay. And some of the debts we are about to pay are very heavy, and that is why people are suffering even today. And that is why even when you read numbers, we think Kikuyu culture and African cultures are mad. If you read the book of Numbers in the Bible, they tell you that a curse goes on from this generation to this, about 4 generations. And what is a curse? A curse is a form of paying for a failed responsibility. So, and sometimes we think cultures are bad because we just focus on the curses, but curses are just reminders that we need to be responsible. But if you pay your debts, guys, I'm telling you, your ancestors who are within you and who are also somewhere else, they're just willing to bless you. They're just willing for you to open up to them, to love them, to respect them, and to pay their debts. And they are willing to support you into all the successes that you ever imagined. So Ashira, that is how we used to deal with mental health issues. Remind people of responsibilities and ask them to pay, and they would be immediately cured of alcoholism, sexual and all these other illnesses that people facing.
Well put. I don't think if there is I'm telling you, I'm loving the show today. Karugu is really, I can say, deciphering what we really wanted our audience to really learn. Ali, I can see we also have a new guest on the show. Please introduce them. Ali, you are.
All right, we have Ronnie here. Ronnie, good evening to you, my brother. All right, good evening, Ronnie. Please introduce yourself to the house, my brother. Where are you joining us from? And also, what are you doing for a living?
Good evening. Ronnie is my name. I'm a social worker by profession from South Africa, and thanks for redoing the show. I believe that today is not like last week. We are going to
get closer to your mic. Get closer to your mic, Ronnie. Get closer to your mic. Get closer to your mic. Get closer to your mic.
Yeah. Am I clear now?
Yes, sir.
Okay. As I was saying, Ronnie is my name and Kona is my surname. I'm from South Africa and I'm a social worker by profession.
That is nice. Ali, before we check on that issue or bring Ronnie in for further question, allow me just to mention some few people who are sending in their comments live today. I can see Alvaro Davis Simiu saying this is good work. I can see the Dairy Edition with Hassan. They're saying it is a wow for me, guys. Big up to Achira Derek and the team. I can also see Kimani Kanyoto saying great conversation there. Big up Karugu and Washira. I can also see Kevin Derito saying that mental health needs a great deal of attention. It's the final taboo and it needs to be faced and dealt with. Changing a person is taking us back to slavery years. I can also see Chris Mwangi saying the fear of not living is a deep, abiding dread of watching your own potential decompose into irredeemable disappointment. When should be, and it should be, as you can see there in your screen, gets crushed by what is. Lovely comments coming in. I can also see Doreen Kerubo saying, interesting conversation here, big up guys. Also, Chris Mwangi putting in another comment. Sometimes I think it will be easier to die than to face that because what we could have been is much more highly regarded than what should have been. Oh, that is really wonderful. I can also see he's saying that dead kids are put on pedestals, but mentally ill kids get hidden under the rug. That is Neil Schatzman, Challenger Deep. Doreen Keruba also saying on curses. The same Bible says an undeserved curse cannot hold. So why would future generations pay for curses from past generations? Are they deserved really? Karugu, you are doing it so nice. Kevin Karugu is saying that you are doing it so nice. What a knowledge you have. And I can see there's some questions that have been posted here by Doreen Kerubo, so you guys can take note of it, and then you might answer it later. Allow me to bring Ronnie back. Ronnie, we were discussing about how the mental illnesses were viewed in our African cultures, especially during those earlier days when our ancestors used to roam this land. So maybe you can tell us which community you come from there in South Africa, and how did they really perceive the issue of mental health and issues of mental illnesses?
Okay, let me start by when I was growing up, because I once experienced something similar that has happened not to me, but it happened to someone like in the community. Well, when we grew up, we used to know people like we saying they are not in the right state of their mind. In sick bed, we say, so some people like us, those they were so dangerous to us when we were growing up. So this a person whom we just thought that that one is mentally ill. Then in the community, you know, such people, people that you are not supposed to associate with, people that you should be scared of because they act differently. I had earlier explaining some of the things that happens in South Africa. That some will pick up things on the street and wear differently and wear like in a way that is not
Okay, just a second, Ronnie. Just a second, Ronnie. Just a second, Ronnie. You know your camera is quite. Ronnie, just a second. Your camera is fine. I think you need to check your mic, because there's a time when your mic is it's working fine. Try to check your laptop. If maybe you're using the laptop mic, make sure that there should be a space between the table and the computer if you're using a computer mic, and make sure that you get closer, man. We are trying to make sure that we're even getting closer to the speakers to hear what you're saying, but let's give it a try. Let's give it a try. Go through, Ronnie.
as I was saying that when I'm not clear, it is just show by saying that I'm not clear so that I can. Am I clear? Yes, I was saying that in South Africa, I had stating some of the things that are happening. It is now changing because we are engaging more. But earlier, when I was still growing up, we had some issues where people like that, we people that we were not supposed to associate with, people that we were scared of. Sometimes even the way they appear, like you can tell that if you go closer to this person, you they might do you everything that is not good, or they might harm you in any way. So like compare it to now, because now there are hospitals that when we experience such we take them there, and professionals which talks about those kind of issue. And I heard that it was explained that they are people who are seems to be bewitched. Mostly, it is that way in our community when people start to behave in a manner that is not supposed to be. I heard they were explaining in terms of culture. We can tell that I've experienced many people who say when they are experiencing.
I think we have also experienced another technical issue there. I think he's experiencing some microphone issues. I don't know. Maybe he can check on that. Karugu, there has
Yes.
been a question that has been posed by Doreen.
And I can't wait to
Doreen,
answer.
yeah,
I can't wait
there is
to
a,
answer.
yeah, there's a question that has been posed by Doreen. Doreen is our good friend. Doreen Kirubo has asked on cases. I don't know if it's a question, if I can put it as a question or really as an observation, because she has said that on cases the same Bible says an undeserved curse cannot hold. So
Yeah.
why will future generation pay for curses from past generation? Are they deserved really?
Yeah, so I would like to say first that they are very well deserved.
Mhm.
Uh, and allow me to just answer this in two ways. The first is the way of my culture, and the
Mhm.
other way is the way of the Bible. So,
Mhm.
starting with the way of my culture, I'll say that our ancestors in Kikuyu are called Gomi. Gomi,
Mhm.
for those who are not Kikuyus, means those who are asleep.
Mhm.
Areyamakomet, those who are asleep. And
Mhm.
where are these people sleeping? See, these people are sleeping in us.
Mhm.
And that is why the science of today is finally proving that we have the
Mhm.
DNA of men and
Mhm.
women who lived millions of years before us.
Mhm.
We look for ancestors in graves and these other places, and the best place to look for them is in ourselves.
Mhm.
So, if our ancestors are sleeping in ourselves,
Mhm.
then the best place to awaken them is from their sleep within. And you do that in two ways. First, you know the blessings that they left you, and two,
Mhm.
you know the curses that they left.
Mhm.
And what I want to repeat that the Kikuyus and many African tribes had a very different way of understanding curse and blessing. It is not the same way nowadays. People fear curses, and some blessings are usually curses. That is why, for example, somebody is given money, and you
Mhm.
think that is a blessing. That they go and have an accident. You see, that is
Mhm.
a curse in reality.
Mhm.
So, for us to fully understand our African traditional society, we need to get rid of these ideas that we currently have of what a blessing is and what a
Mhm.
curse is. Some people get car accidents, and we are very quick to say they have been cursed, and that car accident becomes the savior of their life. It is a blessing that is a curse. So we have lost that fine line between blessing and a curse. So just let me go back to answering Kerubo.
Mhm.
As we have said, is a failure in your DNA and in your family line of responsibilities, of failing to adhere to certain responsibilities. So
Mhm.
in the laws of Moses, you see, the laws of Moses are about culture. In the laws of Moses, and that is why I've quoted Numbers, says the
Mhm.
curses passes on to that and this other generation. And let me
Yes.
tell you right now, science is finally proving that
Mhm.
depression can be passed down generations
Mhm.
up to the third generation. You see,
Mhm.
Moses many years ago said it is up to the fourth generation. And only
Mhm.
now, many years later, about 5,000 years later, it is only then
Mhm.
that science is proving that
Mhm.
depression can be passed down through your DNA to your great grandchildren. So
Mhm.
that is a form of curse. And I hope when I say curse, I am not misleading anybody, because many
Mhm.
times we think curses are bad, and sometimes good curses are blessings, and there's a fine line that we need to understand. And then to answer you, Kerubo, basing on the same Bible, Jesus
Mhm.
said when he came that he has
Mhm.
not come to eradicate the laws of Moses. He has
Mhm.
just come to make them stronger. And he came up with one law, and it
Mhm.
is the law of love.
Mhm.
And you see, the opposite of fear is love. You see,
Mhm.
all this fear that people have in themselves, if you love them, all that fear vanishes and they are able to live the best lives. And that is the same thing, Kerubo. These curses, you just need to, first of all, love yourself. You see people posting memes saying, "Oh, I love myself," and they don't understand how profound that meme is. You see, when you
Mhm.
love yourself, it is not just buying yourself a shoe. It is loving your father, for example, and your mother,
Mhm.
because those are
Mhm.
the only two representations of your ancestors alive. And when you've
Mhm.
loved them, then you go back to loving the father, the fathers and mothers who came before them. And we
Yes.
are patriarchal sometimes, and it is not right. Let us
Mhm.
learn to love both our matriarchs and our patriarchs. So such
Mhm.
that when you think of your grandparents, you're not just thinking of the man, you're also thinking
Mhm.
of the man and the woman.
Mhm.
Loving yourself means loving your ancestors, and you are
Mhm.
suffering because you hate them. And how do you
Mhm.
deliver those who are sleeping with you if you still fear them and hate them and think of them as demonic? You only
Mhm.
deliver them through love, and that is the law that Jesus brought us, and we do not understand even today. You see,
Mhm.
the Bible, you only need the Bible to practice psychology. The Bible says something very interesting, that the
Mhm.
fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge.
Mhm.
But nowadays, and in my Kikuyu culture, me, I'm a proud Kikuyu. In the Kikuyu, they say, "Gaida giagiago." That
Mhm.
translates to, you do not disturb God when you want. Respect
Mhm.
God. And then Proverbs or somewhere in the Bible, they say the same thing. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge. And
Yeah.
what is a the Lord, I want you to understand that the connection you have to the Lord starts with your with your earthly father. Then it goes to the father who came before him. That is your grandfather. Then to the father that came before him. Personally, I can trace my roots back up to 1750. That is when my lineage begins, around 1750. Past that, I have absolutely no idea. But my roots go back all the way to the time. You see, for example, if you go on Wikipedia, they say that the Kikuyu settled around Mount Kenya in the 3rd century. So that you understand, in the 3rd century, that's when the Kikuyu settled in Mount Kenya. I have an ancestor who settled there in Mount Kenya, and I have no idea who he is. And that we can even go back and back to when we left the trees. You know, people think evolution and the Bible are contradictory, yet they are the same. Yeah. We can go back to the first time we left the trees. In fact, the Kikuyus, for example, are called the Gekoyo. Gekoyo is from a big Kikuyu tree called Mokoyo. In English, it is a sycamore tree. We say we come from a tree and people think it is a joke. And we have no idea that millions of years ago we were living in trees. And that is what evolution is trying to prove to us today.
Yeah.
So let me just finish answering Kerubo and say, when we say the fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge, first understand yourself and respect all these men who have come before your father. There are millions of them. And that is why people are saying, because they do not understand him and they do not want to disturb him. So they only used to pray to God when they wanted something very serious. Because all these other things could be answered by ancestors. I hope your question has been answered, Kerubo.
I hope she has been answered. You have just answered the question exhaustively. And I'm also liking the way you are bringing in the African concept and the African tradition, and you are also linking it with the biblical concept, the Christian ways. So, Ali, I want to bring you back again. I can see Ronnie is back.
Yeah, let's try Ronnie one more time. I see that Ronnie is on mute. Let's try to... Please unmute, Ronnie. All right, Ronnie, please continue because we are not able to hear you lately on. Let's go through.
Well, I was talking about the way I grew up and understanding the mental illness and now, and looking at my background, how it has been. I don't know where I have lasted, but I will say from the beginning.
Yeah.
Go through.
Ali.
All right, Ronnie, I don't know what's happening on your side, my brother. It looks like it's a bad night for you. You try to log in your laptop, is not even going through. I don't know what's happening, my brother. So sorry about that. Some technical issues this side, eh?
Ali, we have really tried to get a hold of Ronnie. We wanted to hear the South African perspective on that, especially from that community. So I think now that responsibility will be left up to you. And I want to bring you now because Karugu has really taken us well, especially through the Gekoyo culture. And Gekoyo, as I told you, are the people living who live within and around Mount Kenya, but there are other communities that live around there, but the majority being the Gikuyu people. So Karugu has really taken us well in the traditional perspective and also trying to bring in the contemporary thinking and also the Christian way. So in South Africa today, I want you now to tell us the status quo of what is happening, or what especially in your government. Are they really taking an issue, or do they even care about mental health? Yeah.
No, they do. The government does care about mental health because I remember very well the month of October, it was declared actually as a mental health month, which shows that they're taking it into account. And there are people who are actually, raising mental health awareness. And I'm aware that there are programs which are going through, which they are actually, funding non-profit organization actually to raise awareness in relation to the mental illness. The problem is the perception, how we perceive things this side. I have learned a lot coming from our brother here, Kakuru, how he was actually sharing his story from that side, which is quite broad, and it really shows that things are touched differently. And not to bypass your question, but you asked Kakuru, I don't know if I'm calling it right, Karuku, ne? Karuku,
Yeah,
correct?
Karugu.
Yeah, Karugu. Yeah. So you asked him a question lately on that. How do the ancestors, our ancestors, how were they able to pick up if somebody was having some mental issues?
Mhm,
He mentioned it about sangomas, which is
mhm,
correct. Lately
mhm,
on, when somebody was sick, they will
mhm,
take the person to the sangoma.
mhm,
Those who are believing to sangomas back to those days, but I believe there was no any other medical doctors were not there.
mhm,
Only we're having access to sangoma or ngaka sejo. So they'll
mhm,
take the person there. What the sangoma will do, will take the bones and then they put them inside sort of a small thing, and then you have to
mhm,
go there. You just have to say, or you have to
mhm,
speak your name inside that thing, and they'll
mhm,
throw the bones down there. The
mhm,
sangoma will be speaking to the bones,
mhm,
asking the bones what is wrong with Washiri, because
mhm.
Washiri looks like now he's abnormal. the
Yeah.
bones are going to the bones are going to speak to the sangoma, and the
Mhm,
sangoma will be telling the family what's the problem with Washiri. That's how the
mhm.
old ways things they've been done.
Yeah.
And in the old way, things were
Yeah.
being done very differently. When somebody was having mental issues, they will
Mhm,
not just expose a person to the public in a way
mhm,
that this person is sick or what. They'll try to
mhm,
deal with things in a very secretive way so that they can
mhm,
be able to find out what is the issue with this person, unlike what is happening now, where everyone
mhm.
is thinking of witchcraft.
Yeah, that is really amazing, Ali. You have just reminded me of the movie that I watched when I was very young
Yeah,
called Mr. Bones.
Karuki is saying something. Karuki is saying something.
Yeah, go
I'm
through
saying I can
Karugu.
help answer your question about the front South Africa is taking in appreciating
Mm-hmm.
indigenous healing practices.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I am friends with a couple of South African psychologists, and one of my closest friends is Dr. Mandu Selepe. She's a president of Forum for African Psychology, and she's based at the University of KwaZulu Natal. And so we are usually in communication, and I have attended meetings where thinkers like her, the likes of Anele Siswana, and the other thinkers like Kopano Ratele, Mogobe Ramonsen, and Augustine Nwoye. All these are South African psychologists who incorporate traditional healing systems into their
Mm-hmm.
psychology. For example, if you are to go to therapy to an analysis one's office, you think he's going to there and having a Freudian coach where you just sleep? No, the guy it is designed like a traditional African hat, and he squats and even inhales. In
Mm-hmm.
traditional African society, we have something in Kikuyu. Sorry, we have something called the bake. Bake
Mm-hmm.
is the scientific name for bake is Nicotiana tubacum. So that is the thing that our ancestors used to inhale through their noses before their powers came to them, or however you choose to explain that. So if you go to
Mm-hmm.
an LS1's office, you are going to
Mm-hmm.
see exactly that. And
Mm-hmm.
that is the beauty of South African psychology, though not all of them, but the
Mm-hmm.
few that I interact with, that those are the
Mm-hmm.
things we talk about. And in fact, we have a meeting in September to discuss different indigenous healing strategies
Yeah,
that we can
nice.
incorporate into modern day psychology. I'll share the link with you.
That is
Yeah,
nice.
and
I love the way Karugu is also putting these issues. And I can see Kevin Derito is saying in our comment section that Karugu, you're doing it so nice. Hands up, hands up, hands up. What knowledge you have. And also Doreen Kerubo, our very good friend, has said that, nice. Thank you, Karugo, for the way you've answered the question. And just to my final question, because I can see time is not on our side, because this will be a three-part series. So there'll be a series that will be following this one immediately. And I hope Karugu will be honoring our invite when we call him back on that session.
yeah.
Karugu, I want now to bring you now to the modern era. We have seen how the past has been, and you have seen how the traditional way they have been looking at mental health. And I love the way you're putting it in a traditional setup, because that was the entire purpose and the entire vision of African Corner, to bring these things to light. Now we want to now look in the past, but now with a view of wanting to learn from the past. So just as my last question to you, what do you think, as now we in the modern period now, what can we learn from our forefathers? What can we take from the people who came before us and use it now in Africa to be able to solve the issues of mental health that are affecting Africa today, especially the young people?
How much time do I have to answer that? Because I can talk about that for 2 hours
You
straight.
have
Now,
2 minutes. 2 minutes.
that is very limiting. Let me tell you, we
Try,
as
please.
Africans, we only think we are rich in resources, and that is where we go
Mhm,
wrong. And even
mhm,
those resources that we have no idea about how to utilize them. And then we
mhm.
spend our days blaming French and the British for coming and utilizing the resources that
Yeah.
we can't use. If
Mhm.
anything, we should congratulate them for taking use of resources that we are wasting.
Yeah.
We blame the
Yeah.
Europeans for taking our art and taking it to their museums. We should
Yeah.
congratulate them for appreciating that which we do not
Mhm,
appreciate. Because how many
mhm.
people go to the museums nowadays? How many people go
Very
to their
good.
ancestors to
Very good.
look at their history? Yet we blame the
Mhm,
white man for appreciating the idea of culture, that which we have
mhm,
forgotten. So the point
mhm,
is, we not
mhm,
only have a lot of mineral resources and beautiful art in our culture,
mhm.
all the resources that we need, and they are what do you call them? Those resources that never
Non-renewable.
end. These ones that never end. I'm talking about the one that never end. Is it
Uh,
renewable? They are renewable, and
yeah,
the resources
renewable.
within,
Yeah.
those are the resources within. And those resources that are within you can only understand if you respect, first of all,
Mhm,
yourself. And I think we
mhm,
should stop telling people to respect themselves because they have not achieved anything. Now we are telling 13-year-olds, respect yourself. What has a 13-year-old achieved? Let us tell a 13-year-old to respect their parents and their
Yeah.
forefathers, and let them go back into their history about 5 years down, maybe 5, 10, 50. You see, I've told you personally, I can trace my ancestry back to
Mhm,
1750. And
mhm,
that is because my lineage starts with, that is a first Kikuyu. All the
mhm,
people before that first Kikuyu were Maasais, and I
mhm,
wish I have something I knew about them. But I know the
mhm,
clan that Maasai boy came from in the 1750s, and I'm going
mhm.
to study that Maasai clan called the Damat until I understand it fully. Because,
Wow.
guys, a tree
Mhm,
without roots cannot
mhm,
sprout. And the only
mhm,
way to find roots is to go back into your past. And
mhm,
if you do not have any history about your past, about maybe
mhm,
your forefathers, just
mhm,
go into your own history about your own life.
mhm,
People do not have diaries. People do not reflect. People do not meditate. They do have no idea the successes they achieved in their high schools,
mhm,
in their primary schools. And that is where
mhm.
their misery began. Because somebody was bullied as a 5 or 10-year-old, they are still hiding themselves from the world like a little kid. And it is because they are not looking into their past. So my
Mhm.
request to you guys tonight is that go back into your past.
Yeah.
And if you do not have any past to go to, they do not
Mhm.
think that everything is over for you.
Yeah.
You have
Thank you.
your
Thank
own past. I'm a couple of years old, but I've gone into my own past, and that
you.
is the
Mhm,
only way I've been able to see my future. You cannot see
mhm,
your future if you cannot see your past, and the only way to appreciate your present is if you can
mhm.
see the future and the past.
Thank you, Karugu. That just as we say in our community, the kuogerera kana duta dute. As in, it has just been, you have just packaged it in a very nice way. Ali have just said, I'm not going to reduce or increase anything. He has just put it wonderfully, wonderfully well. So, just as we wrap up the show, first of all, I want to really thank Karugu in a very special manner for accepting our invite, and also in this full glare, we are also sending him our next request for the next mental health discussion that will be following. Maybe not this coming week, but we'll inform our audience. I hope he will accept the invite. So, Karugu, I want to put you in the spotlight. Are you going to accept?
You see, I have no option than to accept what my ancestors are calling me to do. You
Ah,
see, you think you're the ones that are talking, but it is not you. It is your
yeah,
ancestors that are calling for recognition. And if they
yeah,
call me to talk about them, I can move even to South Africa right now to say
yeah.
that which has not been said. So I will be there. And even I wish you guys had this every Sunday. Why do we have to wait for next Sunday but one?
Thank you.
Because
We had
we are running out of time. There's a young
yeah,
person somewhere about to commit suicide because they do not know their roots, and we need
yeah.
to get that person as soon as we can.
We will
No,
put, we will focus on that. And Ali, just before you come in, because I want you to wrap up the show, I want to thank. I've seen Santos Luangu comment go through. He has said, yeah, thank you. It is nice on how you people are linking mental health and traditionalism. Bravo, guys! And I can also see Dorin Kirubo say ancestors Well played, Karugu. And I can see also Kevin Dereto saying, ancestors call to the channel. Thank you, Kevin. Thank you, Kevin. Okay, so just as I wrap up, I want to thank everybody who has taken the time to watch this episode for today. Thank you very much, guys. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for sharing and liking and doing all those things. And also, we have not forgotten to thank Peter who wanted to join in, and also Ronnie, but I've been unable to because of technical issues. I also still want to remind our audience that the African Corner t-shirts are out, and also the Washira Speaks t-shirts are out. If they did not see the African Corner t-shirt I was wearing during the last Sunday's episode, today I'm wearing the Washira Speaks t-shirt, and it is coming in various colors. And in that note, I want to thank Collins again. He did well. He did well. And also, Ali, we just want to remind our audience, State of the Continent resumes tomorrow, Monday, 10 p.m. Kenyan time, 9 p.m. South African time. Ali, it's a wrap.
All right, no, thank you so much, Yalebo African Kona. Thank you so much.
Yeah, Kosi Sikelele Africa.